Hello, I'm Jack Rickard. This is Electric Vehicle Television. I'm here with Bob Wilson, who's now also with EV Television.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to, I guess, then talk about EVs.
Why don't we?
All right. What do you know?
Well, I know a few things. I've got some news, right? And don't we usually start the show with some Tesla news?
We do. We like Tesla news.
I've got a couple of Tesla tidbits that Tesla has signed a 5-year battery technology research deal with Dalhousie University. Where are they? Norway? Not Norway. Nova Scotia. I forget where they are, actually. But at any rate, J.B. Straubel signed a research agreement with Dalhousie University's Jeff Don, the lithium-ion battery researcher with the Faculty of Science, and his group of students, postdoctoral researchers, and technical staff. The work is set to begin in June 2016. And what they're doing is, helping to take lithium-ion batteries and, increase their lifetime.
They're going to make them better?
Yeah, bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Better, faster, stronger.
And cheaper.
And cheaper.
Yeah.
That's the big ones.
Yeah.
I found this thing, I don't quite know what to make of it. This is like on the, one of these financial stock investing things. These are the guys that short Tesla.
Yeah.
And then get busted a lot. But they're always on about something. And so I read it quite a bit. And this latest is a presentation done by Panasonic on their growth as a battery company, and specifically for batteries for electric cars. There were several things that I didn't know. For example, they have 40 different OEM models that they provide batteries to. And 23 coming online. So I thought they only made batteries for Tesla. They make batteries for a bunch of cars, apparently, around the world. They're forecasting auto battery sales growth of 11% in the next 12 months.
This is Panasonic.
Yeah, with Tesla's Model X coming on board. Now, how does this jive with Tesla's 50% per year growth projection? Apparently, they haven't told their battery manufacturer about that.
Yeah, right.
And you would think this was because they're building their own battery plant, but Panasonic is in it, and they're calling it the U.S. factory, and that's part of it.
They don't quite add
Over
up.
the next 4 years, Panasonic forecasts a gross increase of 16.5% per year. In 2019, when the Model 3 is supposed to be in full production, Panasonic forecasts battery sales 84% higher than 2015.
Okay.
Now, that's when Tesla's talking about making 500,000 cars a year.
Right.
And so this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. On May 20th, they gave this presentation to investors
about Panasonic giving this
about its expectation for its various businesses. And so they're projecting much more limited growth than can be in concert with Tesla's growth in cars.
Yeah.
And they're counting the Gigafactory as part of that. Let's see. Panasonic expects revenues from automotive batteries and related products growing from $3 billion in fiscal year 2015 to $5.7 billion in fiscal year 2019, reflecting a 16.5% growth in gross revenues. And to do that, they're talking about expanding their market share from 20 to 34%. They're counting on new business from other automobiles to get that growth. Now, how does that work with, Tesla? So I thought that was kind of interesting. And you had something on the Model 3 They're going to have 2 Model 3s?
They're going to have the sedan and an SUV, XUV is what they're talking about. Yeah.
So a little version of the
Uh-huh.
Model S and the Model X.
Right.
As the
Mini-me's.
Model 3 that's supposed to be the 3rd generation that they've always said they'd sell.
What I had read was the Model 3 sedan, which I think we all know is coming in at around $35,000. The X3, if you will, is coming in around $45,000, and that's I think going to be ramped up a couple years later.
Well, see, the Model S was $55,000.
Yeah.
Except mine was
105, right? Yeah.
So Elon has never technically met a date or
a number, or a
price
point.
estimate so far in the automobile industry. So it'll be interesting to see what the Model X is. Come to find out, my inherited position is 345, not 344, not 375.
Closer than you thought.
He said he entered it during the first hour.
Wow.
That they were taking reservations, so should hear from him soon.
I sure hope that comes to fruition.
What else you got?
So, along the lines of the Tesla still, my friends in the Bay Area will know this site. Tesla has signed a lease deal for 500,000 square feet at the ex-Solyndra site, which is actually just down the road from Tesla's factory now. And many of you will remember Solyndra as the company that took the $500 million loan from the government and then promptly went bankrupt. So
they were a solar panel manufacturer, right?
Yes, supposed to be the U.S. Manufacturer of solar panels. I mean, there's others, but that was quite the touted technology and such that they had. But then they just all of a sudden went belly up and took the money and ran, is the way we all see it. But at any rate, they took on 500,000 square feet of that site, which I think that now fully leases the place. I'm pretty sure Seagate had taken on a good portion of it, and it's got what did I come up with? 300 and some thousand square feet of it.
Manufacturing.
Yeah, 325,000 for manufacturing, supply, and dispatching, and then the other 182,000 feet will be for offices, labs, and cafeteria.
Well, 500,000 square feet, that's big enough to get your own zip code, isn't it?
You would think, right? Yeah. Well, I just went to Chaffee, Missouri yesterday to get the tags done on that truck, and that was...
What did you think of that, huh?
That was a step back in time. So, yeah.
Sort of meet your government circuit 1955.
Oh, my God.
Duck and cover, huh?
The DMV was run by one person, and...
was she under 70?
Yes, she was. She was, but...
the old gal must have died then.
and there was actually a dining room table behind her. It kind of looked like a small apartment behind the counter. And then I come to find out I had to get the truck a safety inspection, and so I go to the shop down the street that does the safety inspections, and they were closed for lunch, right? So I drove into town. I noticed the doors were open. When I go there, the doors are closed. And there's an old guy in there who, I don't know, he just popped up from under the desk that, I'm like, hello, and then some guy pops up from under the desk and says, no, so-and-so's gone to lunch. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll go have lunch. So I go to the No Name Cafe there in Chaffee, and that's where is the step back in time. It's like Alice's or something even older, and and there was probably an 80-something-year-old lady was my waitress, and there was two old-timer guys sitting at the table by the window, shooting the bull, and so it was actually really cool. That was, for me. Just it's
Welcome to Missouri.
Right.
The Solyndra plant, yes, the solar panel thing. There's a lot of thrashing around about alternate energy, and a lot of bankruptcies, a lot of a mess.
Yeah.
But it's happening anyway, and it's going to happen. I came across thing SNL Energy. Keeps track of data provided by the U.S. Mine Safety and Health Administration. They've got coal mining jobs off 8.3% to 79,658 as of March 31st,
That's everybody in the coal industry.
2015, and they've lost 5,000 jobs in the last quarter. And so their peak employment ever
Ever.
in coal mining was 93,084 jobs.
Wow.
And so you hear, of course, some of the politicians from Kentucky and Virginia and so forth talk about the mining jobs and trying to save those. This is why disruptive technologies are a renewing thing. So I went and found the Solar Energy Industries Association and asked them about the solar jobs. And they have a state solar job census. And their story is that the latest state-by-state breakdown shows 175,000 Americans who are working in the solar industry. And that pumps $15 billion a year into the economy. And that's, right now, we have 20 gigawatts of installed solar, and we have that much predicted for the remainder of 2015 and all of 2016. This is what's been happening. We've been equaling the amount of our installed base every year since 2012.
Yes, we have.
The line went vertical.
Right.
And to build all those panels and those electronics and to install them on American roofs, right now we're up to 175,000 people. And I think that pace is growing logarithmically, and we could easily see 500,000 people in that industry by the time it peaks. I watched a video that I'm going to try to play of them putting up a windmill.
Oh, yeah.
The whole Midwest is blanketed with these windmills. And from the air, they look kind of like toothpicks.
Sure.
Well, would you believe they're bigger than I thought?
They are gigantic, just hugundo. That's
Let
one
me
for
show
Ronald
you
G.
this video of a company that puts them in, installing one.
Okay. It must be quite the feat.
So that's some heavy shit.
Yeah.
One of the blades weighs 27,000 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
The little pod on top is the size of a school bus.
Right. Each blade is like 2 semis long, you know. I mean, it's a special trailer. So it's the blade itself is part of the trailer, and it's supported by wheels, you know,
Right.
way down the road.
Yes, they showed that. They showed that.
Okay.
What else you got?
Well, Volkswagen plans to build 12,000 charging points for electric vehicles in the next few years at its company parking lots in Germany. They employ 120,000 people, so that's actually that equals 10% of their actual workforce. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, I like charging at work. 12,000. It sounds like a National Grid charge station. That's
sure
just in
does.
their
That's more than-
employee parking lot.
Yeah, that's more than we have in the United States, at least publicly.
Something's happening in Germany. I'm not sure what. This week, Monday, the what was that? The 15th. The German. Let's see here. I've got it here somewhere. Morgan
I saw
E3.
that. But along those lines of the chargers, IHS Automotive in its latest report is on EV charging infrastructure forecasts 2.7 million EV chargers around the world by the year 2020. And that obviously includes
That's
all the
something else.
residentials.
That's your home chargers.
Yeah, mostly home chargers.
No, there's something going on in Germany. Chancellor Angela Merkel was at a kind of a meeting of electric cars this past week. Now, the previous week, they had a meeting of the G7, and they're all talking about carbon and getting with the program on carbon. Germany has set a target of 1 million electric cars by 2020, kind of like Obama's 1 million by 2015, which we didn't make. Well, apparently they're not going to either. You know how many electric cars they sold in Germany last year?
Oh, what was it, 20,000 or something?
19,000 cars. And so they had an electric car conference in Berlin, and she was talking about the different things they're considering in the way of incentives and subsidies or whatever it takes to get 1 million cars on the road in 2020. There's some British publications are reporting some bizarre things about BMW. And apparently the internal thinking at BMW, and this is all graven in jello, and certainly pending this fall's sales of OEM cars as the glut of off-lease cars continues. But they're talking about converting their entire product line to electric and hybrid. In other words, you won't be able to buy a BMW that isn't either a hybrid or an electric by 2022.
Wow, that's coming up fast.
That's a bold move
It sure
on the
is. I
part of
don't know.
BMW when you consider all this. The BMW CEO Harold Kruger is keen to add an electric SUV to go head-to-head with the Tesla Model X.
All electric.
And the Audi is doing a car that can do the Model S range and acceleration.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
I had not heard of that one.
BMW, the German government, there's like been this kind of lag in Germany behind the UK and France and so forth. And all of a sudden it's like waking a sleeping giant, and Germany is kind of as Damien says, those Germans think of everything. Well, they're a little late to the party, but it's like they're waking up and understand they really got the solar ball rolling.
They did, yes.
Germany basically did a thing called the a feed-in tariff, to where you could sign up an agreement and it would be like 50 cents in euros per kilowatt hour when they were selling kilowatt hours for 25 cents a kilowatt hour at the utility. But if you put in solar, the utility had to pay you 50 cents per kilowatt for 20 years.
I'll take 2.
A feed-in tariff. And that way you could go to the bank and get a loan and put solar in because they knew you were going to have
revenue.
income, basically based on this installation of solar plant. Well, there was one day a year ago this month that Germany produced over half their electricity from solar. They've actually backed off of the FIT thing. Now that was something they would be able to adjust year to year, and that as the more solar came online, they could decrease the premium paid under FIT.
That's what California did with their incentive program too. I mean,
Did
it
they have
wasn't.
a FIT?
They didn't pay more than
Yeah.
than it cost you, but no, you as
No, that's the
rebate
U.S.
program.
We've done sort of net metering.
Yes.
And but no, this is feed-in tariff, where if you're feeding power into the grid, you get money, and that got all the Chinese and American, both panel makers, in a big scramble. It wasn't to fill our demand; it was to fill Germany's.
Yeah.
And then they kind of cut it out, and all the solar stocks cratered. But then, in kind of a delayed reaction, the U.S. there were all these cheap panels. And so the U.S. started to pick up on installations, and now it's going in the U.S. logarithmic. I mean, we're adding as much each year as had been built up to that point.
Yes.
And it's just the spike has gone vertical. It was from the very inexpensive solar equipment left on the ground when Germany kind of backed off on this thing a little bit. So now they're talking about... And in places in Europe, they're pretty serious about this grams of CO2 per kilometer type thing.
Okay.
They make California look pretty easy-going.
Really? That's hard to believe.
You meets the numbers. It's not, or else. You just will.
Yeah.
If you want to sell a car, you're just going to have to do this. And there's no trade-off, there's no ZEV credits, there's no whether or not we can enforce this. In Germany, they can enforce it.
You will.
In several places in Europe, it's kind of like, this is the number you will meet, or you can't even sell a car. You know, I mean, so they're taking it pretty seriously. I think BMW is kind of putting a little lead angle bias on this thing because they know how it's going to come out anyway. And so let's just bite the bullet, convert the whole line, and get out from underneath the cloud. That may be what they're considering. So, I don't like it all being done that way, but I like it being done. And
we welcome it.
So, Volkswagen, of course, has been... Oh my goodness, our poster child for press releases for years.
Oh, yeah.
They never actually make any cars, but they talk about it a lot. But the e-Golf is hitting the shores here in the U.S., and the people who get them like them.
I like it.
They like them a lot.
I haven't even seen her. Well, I haven't touched one. I've actually seen one in the Bay Area. And I like the Golf. I had a Golf 15, 20 years ago, and I really liked that car then. And so just happy to see an electric version of it, OEM-wise. We've got Toyota is one of those car makers that is, it's kind of funny to talk about Toyota and batteries because it sounded like they were going away from all electrics and such and moving into the hydrogen. But anyway, they are working to develop their own battery technology of the future, and that is of magnesium, which in theory could be better than lithium ion. The Toyota Research Institute of North America, TRINA, recently announced a critical advancement in the development of electrolytes for magnesium batteries. According to the article, researchers at TRINA developed the first highly stable electrolyte and now can move forward with works on anode, cathode, and ultimately fuel cells. So they're still heading in that fuel cell direction. But,
I've never believed their fuel cell thing. I've always thought that was a shill
Okay.
to keep you from looking where they're really working.
oh, good.
Toyota was doing some serious work on solid-state batteries, but now they have this magnesium. I'll always have a bias against magnesium because that's what we used in firefighting school, basically in the Navy, because a lot of the aircraft had magnesium wheels. And in firefighting school, they would set one on fire in a sand pit. And if you hit it with a solid stream of water, it explodes.
Yeah, it does not go out,
And
right?
so
Yeah.
you don't hit aircraft wheels with a solid
I remember
stream of water.
magnesium ribbon in science class,
But
flaming.
magnesium catches fire. It just starts burning down through the steel decks.
Yeah,
And there's no way to stop it other than like a huge bucket full of sand or something,
Right.
asbestos or something, where it'll just sit there and burn then there. It's very hard to put out. So a battery made out of it on purpose strikes me
Dubious.
with horror,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's some other way. The we've been on about the Nissan as being the poster child now for the cheap off-leaf car.
Off-lease,
And indeed, I watched one on eBay go for $9,500.
and it was a pretty nice car.
It was pretty
very low
nice.
miles, and
And I said that some of our viewers would be savvy enough to see through the battery thing and grab a bargain. Here's a Nissan Leaf Taxi that hits 160,000 kilometers, 100,000 milestone, with 25,000 pure electric paying fares. I guess they average about 4 miles apiece then.
right, sounds like it.
Fast charge 1,700 times, and yet the batteries are nearly full battery health, and they're still on their first set of brake pads because of the regenerative braking.
So there you go.
And so that's it. They've since expanded this little taxi company to 5 of them, and they just love them. Meanwhile, the story is starting to spread. Consumer Reports has done an article entitled, "Want a Cheap, Reliable Car? Consider a used Nissan Leaf. Incentives for leases and low wholesale prices sweeten the deal." And so right now we're seeing Leafs 20, 30, 35,000 miles.
10, 11 grand.
10, 11 grand.
Yeah,
A little higher mileage or a 2011 or down around 9.
yep.
And I think we reported what's the trade-in on a 2012, the trade-in value?
9,500.
Yeah, $9,500. It's actually less than the Versa, which is a $15,000 base car.
Right.
And Consumer Reports picked up on this and is alerting their readers to, hey,
Go get them.
here's a bargain.
Go get 'em.
And so
Still a good
that's,
car. We could at least, we know, could do 100,000, and we believe $250,000 is not out of the question.
there is a car I
Treat 'em
always
right.
wanted to do, but it's too expensive. The best place really that should be leading all of this is the UK. And that's because they have a very rich environment. You know how we have microbrew beers?
Yeah,
They do that with cars there.
yeah.
They're
They're
the cars don't
boutique
come with beer.
car boutiques.
But there are companies that have operated there for decades that might turn out 20 or 30 cars a year.
True.
And one of the larger ones, and one of my favorites, is a company called Morgan. And they do a 3-wheel car with a V-twin in the front. It's actually made up in Wisconsin, I think, here.
Oh,
But it looks like a Harley motor. And it's at 56 degrees, has these 2 great big pistons.
okay.
And it's a 3-wheel car, and it looks like a race car from the 20s. And people buy you actually can't get one right now. They're sold out for the next year or two. They're
Unobtainium.
in Britain they call them bespoke cars. But like custom cars they build for people, they'll make you one your color and different decorating things,
Finishes.
and so that's what they're doing, and it's. But Morgan has been around for a long time,
Yes.
and I've always thought an electric. Well, hey, forget the conversion. They're introducing an electric model, and they're calling it the EV3, and that's a Morgan electric version of their thing. And what's this thing supposed to do? Oh my goodness! The EV is lighter. It's 992 pounds.
Huh.
Instead of and this three-wheel car is only 1,157 pounds with a normal engine. They're going to do the EV and drop it to 992, and they expect the total range to be about 150 miles.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
So they've had this idea for a while, but apparently they're wanting to put that in production.
I'd like to look
in
at the specs on that.
2016. It's just kind of a cool-looking British country car, scarf, and goggles, and I mean this is completely open car.
Yeah, I'm picturing the Can-Am
down
three-wheeler,
the-
that
right,
motorcycle-looking thing. But at any rate, welcome. Hope they get it done.
Ed
Hope they sell
Clausen
lots of them.
in Massachusetts, a magic state. I might need a guy in Massachusetts someday.
Let's borrow your address, Ed.
Yeah. And but he's had a BMW. He owns a Leaf, and he likes the Leaf. In fact, he told me at one point that he didn't see any point in doing a conversion because he bought a Leaf.
Yeah.
And then he starts telling me how it's about 2 miles short for his commute. And I told him, well, it's got a 24 kilowatt battery in there. And he jumped all over me. Yeah, but they only let you use 20 kilowatts of it. I said, well, if you built that yourself, Ed, you could use however much of it.
Yeah.
But since it's their car and their warranty,
And you don't have the right to change it.
right, then you're kind of stuck with the 20 kilowatts. And so he started a conversion the next week of a BMW 320i.
Yeah.
And Ed had worked, I would call it fastidious. But the interesting thing is, I can watch him learn a lot as he's going along.
Yeah. Yes.
He kind of lets you.
I've been enjoying it.
On the
His revelations and such.
on the failures as well as the good ones,
Yeah.
and that's a big play at EVTV. That's sharing
for
valuable
the cause.
knowledge that can become part of the tribal knowledge base. Let's go see what Ed's doing at this point.
Hi there, welcome to another chapter of the electric BMW 320i project. Yeah, it's been almost more than 2 months since my last video. Just taking a lot of things I'm doing, and unfortunately in the summer months, warm weather, I have a lot more distractions than I do in the winter. So that's been going on, but meanwhile, one of the things that's been delaying getting the whole electric vehicle going is I decided to upgrade the brakes. My idea is that since this with the electric motor is going to go a lot faster than it did with the ICE, it's going to need to stop a lot faster. And so I installed a set of disc brakes in the rear, converted the old drum brakes, and upgraded the front brakes, and I'll show you that. Now I have a new version of the BMS, and that one uses a shunt instead of the CAB 300 flux gate sensor. So now there's two options for the way you measure the pack current in the BMS, and hopefully we'll get those built up and into Jack stores soon. And finally I got all the batteries, or almost all the batteries, installed in the car, and also been wiring up things. I've been working on the engine compartment, trying to get all of the components installed and all wired up, because once the Siemens motor is in there with the DMOC, it's really going to be tight. So after that, I get everything done, then the motor will go in. So let's take a look. Here's the rear drum brake assembly that's going to be removed and replaced with disc brakes. Supposedly just pop everything off and pull off the hubs and put on the new ones and should have a disc brake. Let's see how it goes. Alright, the castle nut came off alright. Impact driver worked well. Had to get a big socket there, 36 millimeter for that nut, but that came off. So now let's see how the flange will come off. Got a gear puller and try that next. Well, pulling on this for a while, and basically cranking it so much I'm pulling up the car, so this can't be gonna work. And it seems like the threads on this cheap puller are breaking down, so I thought it was going to be a nice inexpensive solution to this, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. So the next test is to try and use this hydraulic puller. It's supposed to be able to do, it says 5 ton. That should be enough to separate that. I certainly hope it doesn't pull the rear end apart. Alright, there it's attached. Let's set the camera up so you can record this as it happens. Well, that's it. That's coming off. Wow, that took a lot of pressure. Never taken apart in 35 years. So now the disc rotor is installed. I pointed out in an earlier part of this installation that hold down hole pin that bolt normally on BMWs would be in the right place, but this is not a BMW rotor, so it's not in the right place and it's not the right diameter. But the solution is just to use some lug nuts to center it, hold it down, get the caliper on, and then the wheel. Brake pads here have been coated on the side that contacts the metal and the piston with the stuff from Bavarian Autosports called Noise Free. It's a silencing material. It's kind of like a rubbery stuff. It goes on there and keeps the pads from squealing when the brakes are applied. And now the caliper's on. It's held in. Those brake pads have little springs at the top, and that's what pushes against it to hold it down. And then there's just 2 bolts that hold that. Still have to attach the brake line and the parking brake, but that should be pretty easy to do. So, rear brake's done. Here's a look at the front brakes, and what I did, I upgraded the rotors to these vented high performance rotors, and I also painted the calipers as well as put in carbon pads. It's going to be interesting to see. The problem when you put on disc brakes in the back is now you have a lot more braking action in the back, and potentially that would cause the rear wheels to lock up when you brake really hard. But by increasing the braking in the front, you can hopefully balance that out, and I won't have to replace the compensation module that's in the brake circuit right now. Plus the rear end is going to weigh a little bit more because the battery's back there, so that should help help the whole situation of rear wheel braking. So now I have a new version of the BMS. It's pretty much exactly the same as the other. It's designed to look at 4 channels of temperature and voltage, but this one now has the ability to measure the total pack current with a shunt. So it's exactly the same, except instead of using the CAB 300 current sensor, it now uses a shunt. And it's the exact same circuit that's in the JLD 505. Thank you, Paulo. So it works pretty much the same. The wiring's a little bit different because I had to take into account new wires to connect to this board, but pretty much same exact cinch connector, 18 pins, and wiring out. So that now makes 2 options available in the BMS, one where you can use a shunt, or one where you can use the flux gate sensor. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. The flux gate has the great advantage that you don't have to make another connection or cut in the wire. It just slips right over one of your battery cables. It has the disadvantage of not as much accuracy, and that's mostly the big advantage of the shunt, is it has really high accuracy, but has a disadvantage is you got to make a cut and 2 more crimps, and just another place for things to break. So that's up for right now. I haven't really decided yet which I'm going to put in my system, in my car, but we'll see what goes on after this. Here's a closer look at the system again. This shows the new version 7 of the BMS board, which has this standard external shunt. This is a 100 millivolt shunt, and basically all you have to do is connect 3 wires to it, and it's ready to go. This is the CAB 300, the flux gate sensor. That requires 12 volts going to it, as well as CAN, and that's the only way you can read that sensor is with CAN bus. But we already have a program that reads that. So the version 6 of the BMS, which uses the CAB3, or the version 7, which will use an external shunt. So hopefully both of these will be available sometime soon. These boards have been tested out and working, and we have code. I think a couple of episodes ago Colin showed this actually working in the car that they are working on. So we'll see what's available pretty soon in Jack's store. Here's what's been going on in the engine compartment. No, the Siemens and DMOC are not in there yet, but soon to be. I've been working on placing everything, getting everything connected and wired up, which I thought would be much easier to do without the motor in there. So those are the 2 water reservoirs for the cooling loops. It's the Delphi DC-DC converter. Have a little 12 volt sealed cell battery over here, and then the main contactor box is down there. That's the mount for the Siemens motor, the vacuum pump, and canister reservoir for the power brakes is there. I basically have reworked all that. I restored that brake booster and got some new parts. The white wires are the battery box heater wires, so those are gonna have to be terminated somewhere, as well as get the the Delphi DC-DC converter connected up. And of course then there's the front battery box. Still has to have batteries put in it. Alright, finished putting the batteries in the trunk box, and now to test out this sliding rail system so that I can move the battery box in and out to be able to strap them up and cable everything. Let's see. Let's It's a lot of weight. Oh, look at that, it slides very nicely. And back. That's great. 254 pounds of batteries. And it just smoothly slides. Awesome. Here are the rear seat boxes that have all the batteries now in them. They just, again, like the trunk box, has to all be strapped up. But they're all nice and snug in there. The gray multi-conductor cable that's in the middle there, that's going to be the wire for the BMS to be able to pick off voltage and temperature. What I'm going to do is just open up that multi-cable and just take out a couple of the small 28 gauge wires and connect those, and so there won't be a lot of spaghetti wire or extra cables running around. I just have one cable with all of the data in it going back to the front of the car. The other wires here are the battery box heaters and thermistors. I don't know how quickly I'm going to be connecting those up, being it the middle of summer coming up, but those eventually will be connected to the controller in the front of the car. Here in the trunk, the Brusa charger is all set up, almost connected. Just have to do a few more connections in this little junction box. And then the last thing in here is this bar, which is the brace for the battery box so that it doesn't move during acceleration of the car. Getting some mounts made so that this will be up here and hold it in place. All the batteries are in there. And you can see they still need to be strapped up, but that's going to happen very shortly. And of course all the wiring and everything else is pretty much done, so this is one of the last pieces that has to be finished. But pretty close now. Get these batteries all connected, and then it'll be ready to put the Siemens in and take it for a spin. So you can see I've been having lots of fun with brake jobs. That really took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I also was planning to upgrade the suspension, all the shocks and springs, as well as all the bushings, and I decided I'm going to wait and get the car rolling first before I take that on. It just seemed like, since the car's up in the air, it'd be easier to do now, but it's just as easy to put it back up there and work on it again. Hopefully I get all the batteries strapped up soon and get that Siemens motor in there, and maybe next video you'll be able to see both of those things going on, as well as maybe the car spinning down the road. So thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you again.
Ed, keep it up.
Yeah, go ahead. He's changing brakes, but his battery boxes are in. And I keep, I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me. Once those battery boxes and those batteries are in, and you have them strapped up and charged, you're not many days from rolling. It seems like you're not even a third of the way there, and you're 80% there, 70, 80%. The rest of the stuff just, well, if it takes you 5 minutes to wire, and you have to plug in 100 of them, that's 500 minutes.
Yeah, it gets, somewhat tedious, I suppose, but that's where the devil's in the details.
Maybe it is, but crime rate goes by in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And so the next thing you know, you're standing there thinking, what have I missed?
Yeah, surely I must have.
Should I turn the
I can't
ignition
possibly
key?
be ready now.
I can't be ready to roll. And so he's getting a lot closer than he was. Bob, we talked about this a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago. It all kind of blends together for me now.
Yeah.
EVTV didn't precisely invent the concept of videos about making an electric car. No. I actually got that from a young kid, that's what he looked like to me, on YouTube, that when he lived in New Zealand.
Yeah, the Kiwi.
He's a Kiwi. And he bought a car for $200. I actually ran this a couple months. We actually ran the drive home in a $200 car. And he proceeded not only to convert it to electric, but he filmed it, and put it up on YouTube as a series,
Right.
where you can watch the whole car. Of course, he was wanting to build it out of string and bits of tomato cans and pieces of
Right, wasn't the
plastic off of lawn chairs and stuff, and upholstery out of old couches, and just various odd bits. He got the car done, and it drove fine.
and he loved it. It was his baby.
It was, and then the second time he registered it, they said, "Well, you've got frame rust. You're going to have to fix all this frame." Well, it would have been more than he had in the whole car,
Right.
and twice as much as the car was worth. And so he sold the car, took his long-suffering wife to Tahiti, and they had a 4-day weekend there on the money he got for Gav's EV.
Okay.
That's what he used to call it, Gav's EV. And then they moved to Slovakia, which apparently is part of Czechoslovakia, with Michael Elias, who turned the Tesla
Right.
drivetrain last weekend too, is now living in Switzerland, but he grew up in the Czech part of Czechoslovakia.
Yep.
And this guy's in the Slovakian part of Czechoslovakia, and his wife's from Slovakia. Well, they won't let you build an electric car at all. You would have to get permission of the manufacturer, for one thing.
Yeah.
So it's just not practical. He saved up some money and bought him an IMEV, and it's an interesting tale what happened there. Let's take a look.
Okay, we're on our way to the other side of town in Bratislava to look at an electric car. I haven't test driven this car. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm getting all the signs that it could be the one, because it is the first privately registered electric car in Slovakia. And the owner, unfortunately, she passed away, so her husband is selling it, and it could be mine. It just seems right. It's 10,000 euro, which is that many US dollars. And it's for Slovakia, that's a really good price. The cheapest one I've seen is 13,000 euros, so all the signs are right. You wouldn't believe this. The guy knows me and follows me on Twitter. As soon as I walked up, he's like, "Hello, Gavin." Hello. He knows me, knows I'm a crazy electric car nut job. And all the signs are right. Hey, everything just feels right.
And the air conditioning is
And the
super
air
cold.
conditioning- An electric car with air conditioning. What an amazing thing. Actually, the only problem is I'm in Bratislavia and I have no idea where to go. This place is a maze. It's in pretty good nick. It's got a couple of scrapes. Obviously, it's got a few battle scars from driving in Bratislava, but I would too if I've been driving for 4 years in this city. The car itself is in pretty good nick. There's no rust under it. I mean, there's a little spots of surface rust because the roads are salted here, but otherwise there's nothing weird about it. It drives well. It's quiet. It's got all the options: heated seats, air conditioning, and it's electric. I think I might have to buy this car. It's all just meant to be. Electric car, Bratislava city. It's destiny. I must have this car. Bye. Alright, it's day 2. I'm back in Petržalka in Bratislava. As you probably saw last night, I kind of fell in love with that car, so I wanted to buy it, and he made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and now I'm on my way there to sign a bit of paperwork and pick up the keys. Now I'm going to go and change the ownership of the electric car, and in about 2 hours it should be mine. Wish me luck. I hope it all goes according to plan. See you later.
Bye.
I own an electric car. I am an owner of an electric car. One of these ones. This car is mine. I own it. I am now the owner of the first electric car registered to a private seller in Slovakia back in 2011, and now it's mine. Woohoo! I am the proud owner of this electric car. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. This is amazing. This is brilliant. It's mine. It's all mine. I honestly can't believe this car is mine. I really own an electric car. The owner of the previous, now I can say this, previous owner sold it to me for an amazing price.
And so the guy had actually heard of him online, and it was the first IMEV sold in Slovakia as a passenger car, and now Gav's got it, and he's back in the saddle. I don't know if we'll be getting weekly videos of the teardown from him or what, but he's driving an electric car in Slovakia, and just couldn't be happier.
Back at home again, right?
You bet.
Yeah, very good.
I put this off a couple weeks. John Hardy is the author of Ice Free and a frequent contributor to EVTV, and
Our friend, the battery tester.
he does a lot of battery testing
Yeah, I look forward to meeting John.
for me, where I've kind of been able to work my way out of it, kind of concede it to him and move on to other things.
Yes.
And but he has had one of the world's longest build streaks. He's been working on this Honda for several years, and about a month ago had his first drive. Let's take a
His
look.
maiden voyage.
You may remember that I've been converting a Honda Civic to electric drive with a little bit of help from my son and some of his friends. Last time we did one of these videos, we'd got the motor and gearbox and so on back into the car, and we had electrics on the bench, and we were just trying out the charger and the pack heaters and things like that. Since then, basically, I've taken all those components, just shoveled them into the car. So I'll do a brief walk around just to show you what it all looks like now. So this is broadly it. On the left there we've got the battery box, and on the right the controller, contactors and a few other bits and pieces. And on top of the battery box there's all the low voltage electrics. I've taken the lid off the low voltage electrics box here so that you can see what's inside. Basically I've put all the 12 volt connections up here so that I can see them and get at them and troubleshoot them if need be. Basically everything else just goes to the controller or the battery boxes or wherever. It looks fairly hideous, but actually it's not too bad if you take it a bit at a time. I decided to mount the controller on a solid heatsink rather than on a water-cooled one. So we've got here just a large aluminium forging, I guess, which the controller sits on. It's got some thermal grease between the two. It's not actually necessarily a cheaper way of doing it, but I just thought I'd experiment with it. And I've got 3 PC fans sitting here, which basically just blow cold air over it. And then underneath I've got the heater. The heater isn't wired up yet. These are the 3 solid state relays, and then there's another relay here that will be connected up, physical relay will be connected up to it. And what in the UK we call the boot floor, and I believe in the US is called the trunk floor. There's a very convenient little compartment here, and I've used it for basically the low voltage electrics. So essentially we've got the charger here, DC to DC converters, and a 12 volt battery. This is some used 40 ampere lithium ion cells, lithium iron phosphate, 4 of them, which I need to make some different arrangements for charging. So that was the easy bit in a sense, taking all the components. I'd done all the metal cutting and so on, and assembling them into the car. And I had the car perfectly usable and rolling by about the end of March. But then the next hurdle was to get it through the Ministry of Transport or MOT test. And in order to do that, I needed to get to the point where the various lights were out on the dashboard. There have been some recent changes which give the MOT tester more flexibility on modified cars, but I didn't want to push the boundaries too much. There were a couple of possible candidates for the source of an RPM signal to activate the power steering. One was a camshaft sensor, which was fairly easy to simulate. I made up this little module using an Arduino Pro Mini. Here's another one. That's an Arduino Pro Mini. They're very cheap. They're a couple of dollars each, and they have all the functionality of a standard Arduino, except that they don't have any of the onboard USB interface. You have to use a separate plug-in device for that. And they come without any pins soldered to them. I've soldered pins to this one, but it means you can solder wires instead of pins if you wish. That arrangement gave me a TAC reading, but unfortunately that didn't activate the power steering. The other possible source of RPM signal that the power steering might have been looking at is the crankshaft position sensor. This is the original sensor out of the piston engine car, and I've put it on this very, very crude rig with a gear wheel to take the place of the reluctor wheel that's in the engine. And this is a quite different device. It has a magnet in there and produces an AC waveform as this rotates, which is interpreted by the ECU into RPM. So essentially I've got the wires from the test rig hooked up temporarily to the connections for the crank position sensor. And at the other end of the wire I've got my crude test rig for trying out the sensor. With the ignition on, you can see the steering warning light there. If I crank up my my crude rig. It turns the light out. Had a fairly severe setback. I was working on spoofing the crank sensor, and suddenly the near side curtain and side airbags went off. I've really no idea why that happened. So at this point I was beginning to wonder whether I'd bitten off more than I could chew. Maybe I shouldn't have tried converting a modern car of this kind. But then we had a bit of a breakthrough. We discovered that very recently, just as of March 2015, the rules for the MOT have been changed slightly to give the tester a bit more leeway when it comes to modified cars. And on that basis we removed the side airbags altogether from the car and disconnected the front airbags. I've never trusted airbags, and having had one go off by accident, I felt that the danger from the airbags deploying accidentally was probably greater than the danger of being hurt in an accident, because there were no airbags. So we're keeping the seat belts, of course, but deleting the airbags. And similarly with the power steering, the chap just accepted that the power steering didn't come on until you got up to about 10 or 12 miles an hour when it's activated by road speed. And the other one, the ABS, we fixed that okay just by sorting out a sensor. So as you'll see in a moment, the car is now road legal and we've driven it on the road.
As our world grows, it's necessary to invest in sustainable transportation to reduce our impact on the planet and ultimately create economic efficiencies wherever possible. Electric vehicles are becoming the leaders of this efficient, sustainable movement. In electric vehicles, the driver experience is just as important as the batteries that power it. EVs display different information than conventional vehicles, such as the amount of energy stored, expected mileage on a current charge, and distance until empty. Monitoring vehicle efficiency and energy consumption are more critical than ever because of driving range limitations experienced in EVs that are different than your conventional vehicles. This presents new challenges to structure and simplify new driver information for operating EVs. Andromeda Interface's EVIC was designed to collect, interpret, and consolidate data onto one vehicle dashboard to provide a reliable and configurable device to monitor the operation and safety of your electric vehicle. From monitoring your motor controllers to your battery management systems, EVIC is a human-machine interface that seamlessly interprets all the complex data coming from these devices. EVIC presents the driver information in one simple display unit, and we are continuing to build our portfolio of certified interfaces from other EV suppliers. Please review our list of supported EV components on our website. Andromeda Interfaces is striving to enable human-machine technology that helps improve the safety and efficiency of electric vehicles. By doing this in a cost-effective way, we are helping to accelerate the growth of sustainable transportation.
Okay, you ready to go?
So here we are, Saturday the 16th of May 2015, test drive of the Honda Civic as converted to all-electric drive by John Hardy.
John Hardy and
others,
and
sons and daughters and others,
Chris and a few
as
others.
in John Hardy, scientist of this parish.
Right, let's go.
So here we go.
Yeah. Might want to get a bit,
Oh!
oops.
Well, that was a curb.
Might want to get a bit out the front as well.
So driving in first gear at the moment, 17 miles an hour, 2,500 revs, voltage at 117.
Might want to get some out the window as well.
Just to show that John isn't speeding too much, 36 miles an hour,
It's only a
5,000 revs and 114 volts.
Let's try second for the next one. That horrid, so this is second.
So we're pulling off in second gear now.
That's full throttle. It's not particularly, doesn't have a lot of alacrity in the second.
You may be able to see or not that we're at 4,000 revs and at 99.6 volts, 47 miles an hour. The only embarrassing thing of the car so far is the infernal beeping of the seatbelt not being worn sign.
So this has to be one of the more boring first test drives.
Yes,
So far.
I was expecting something extravagant to happen, possibly broken down and pushing the car back from miles, but all we get every now and then is beep, 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 wear your seatbelt. So here we are at 48 miles an hour, driving through sunny Redditch, in second gear at 4,000 revs and at 112 volts. So, John, tell us something about the work involved in transforming this car from a petrol gas guzzling monster into this rather elegant, if I may say, all-electric drive Civic.
Oh, it was actually a diesel guzzler. It had a
Even worse.
2.2 litre turbo diesel in it, which
Outrageous.
was a very big beastie. It's taken us a couple of years. I had help from my son, Asher, and also from Theo and Chris, and one or two others. Well, two Chris's actually. And a lot of evenings and weekends and so on working in the garage. So it's coming together quite nicely.
Excellent. And this is in fact your second electric vehicle.
Well, it is, yes. I have the Ampera as well, so which is faster and more polished. This one doesn't have the other way. This one doesn't have things like heaters and air conditioning working.
Good job it's summer then.
Yes, absolutely. The heater's installed. I just haven't wired it up.
So yes, viewers, as John said, a rather boring first test drive.
Yes.
We're so bored we've decided to go the other way back.
Well, absolutely. I'm still having trouble changing gear. I've got to do a little bit of work on that. I need to set the regeneration so that it doesn't click in just for a second or so to give me time to change gear. I managed it successfully once. Let's see if we can do it again. We may end up coasting to a halt, so I'll wait till we're a bit closer to the right of that. Oops, we're doing 50 miles an hour and a 40 mile an hour speed limit.
I think you got third last time, all right.
Oh,
It was into fourth.
Missed it again.
There's the problem, you see.
Yes. I might be able to do it if I had a bit more experience with the motor, but synchronising the motor with the gearbox is difficult with the regen working.
But the voltage is very nice at 114.
Yes. I've got to stop and get into gear now. Got somebody behind me, that's embarrassing.
The perils of changing gear without
Without
a clutch, yes.
Yes, we don't have a clutch because unfortunately no dames, no pack drill. The flywheel was dropped while we were assembling it, and a new flywheel and clutch was going to be very expensive.
And after all, who needs a clutch? Oh,
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
somebody in a great deal of hurry.
Hurry, yeah.
Yes. So back to the boring stuff again, ladies and gentlemen. 102, 103, 104 volts, 105 volts, and the rev counter is now showing a healthy 6,500 revs at 40 miles an hour in first gear. Not bad.
Probably a little high, really, but not bad.
Yeah, first gear though. Go on, John, be brave. Put it in second. Go
Well, I've
on.
got somebody behind me.
Oh,
I'll
good.
wait till I've turned into a manila. So I managed to change once from second to fourth, but it's all a question of timing. The regen needs to be off just for maybe a second to give me time to change gear. That's a little thing we're going to need to adjust on the controller.
Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. A lovely trip around Churchill in Redditch. In the sunshine.
Oh dear, the chap behind me has also turned into this.
Oh dear. I think we'll be in first gear all the way home.
I think we probably
Still, you try doing this in first gear in a petrol car.
well, yes, the diesel will be straining. It's
I'm pulling at 35 miles an hour.
yes.
So for those that are interested, back to the statistics as we finish this most remarkable test run. 113.5 volts.
Right, well, we'll back it up and plug it in.
Yes, we started off at 115.8, so it'll be interesting to see where we are when we pull up and stop.
Try not to back into that BMW.
No, don't do that.
That's
The
Mark's car.
owner will be very unhappy.
Yes, quite. It's a very fine car.
Yes,
The only thing that would slightly improve it is,
a better driver.
well, no, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of a fairly high performance electric motor.
Yes. As long as it went quick enough to get the wind
Yes.
rustling through my hair.
Yeah, actually, I've just remembered
The filler cap is on the other
filler
side.
cap, is it?
Oh dear.
It's,
Ladies
it's
and
on the back.
gentlemen, that age-old problem of which side is my filler cap.
Yeah, that's quite age-old problem of Alzheimer's creeping up.
I was just going to say, it's just the age.
Yes.
It's not the old problem.
Yeah,
Just the age, John.
right. There we go.
So
Thank you
we
ever so much.
started off at 15.8 and we're finishing off, and it's gone off, but 15.6.
Oh, let's try it again. Oh, I'll have to change it back onto the voltage. Yeah, that's amps.
15.7.
Right,
So
so
in that drive we've lost 0.1 of a volt.
Oh, well, that's not too bad, and it'll
There you
probably
go.
recover that if we left it another few minutes. but
Yes.
it won't bother.
Well,
Right.
there you go. That was rather successful,
Yes.
if what, somewhat uneventful.
Yes, well, quite. Well, thank you ever so much, Mike.
Good night.
So that's John. He left out the clutch,
Yeah.
and many people will tell you knew that. We use the transmission, we use the clutch. Is there a reason?
There's
no secret reason. The reason is it works.
yeah.
The car
does
was,
wear,
The car was
As
designed
I just
that
found
way,
out in the truck.
and it is a wear item. Bob is driving the Toyota SR5 now.
Yeah.
That,
I like the truck.
do you?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
This we bought from a old guy, I can't remember his name, in Heber Springs, Arkansas, who is like 84, and he bought himself a Wego.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't want this thing around. It had some gorgeous batteries in it. Thunder Sky 200s, very limited run of those.
What year did he build that?
Oh no, I don't. You know, I
It's an
did.
03
I
truck.
did know. It's a what year? truck?
03?
An 03?
Yeah.
Yeah, he built it in 04.
Okay.
He,
So there we
that
go.
truck had no miles on it
Yeah.
when he started.
Yeah.
He took a brand new Toyota pickup and converted it. And then he calls one day and wants to sell it. And he sold it to me for, you know, I couldn't replace the batteries for
Yeah.
twice that.
Yeah.
So I bought the truck. My daughter drove it a while. She's driving one of the Smarts now.
Yeah.
And so I told Bob, go drive the truck. You can use this to get back to Fort Worth. You don't have to buy gasoline. You'll get more familiar.
Yep.
Raptor controller and
It's,
ADC motor. Well,
yeah. As I found out, clutches are wear items.
yeah, we're going to have to put a clutch in it, some tires. It's always something. That electric cars are maintenance free was Chelsea Sexton and some people out in Plug-in America. They never had an electric car.
Yeah.
Chelsea never owned one. She's an advocate. And she doesn't spend any of her own money on it. It's and so the I guess she does now, but then not. And the so anyway, back to the ranch.
Yeah.
They do have maintenance.
They do.
And Bob thinks he needs a clutch and some tires, and he thinks that doubly so because he thinks I'll be paying for it.
Well,
guess-
and the
I
fact
guess
that I
I
had a
will.
blowout on the freeway today
Well, you
was,
did blow out a tire.
Indication that tires were hurting.
The Honda, he has an AC50 in there. Regenerative braking makes it hard to shift
Yeah.
if you don't have a clutch.
Yeah.
They actually, John, HPVS has added a wire for a clutch switch. And you could simply wire up a button that would, it cuts out the regen and all power when you push in the clutch. And so it lets you shift more easily with regen. You could actually wire up the switch
freewheels
John,
it. Yeah.
and press the switch. That takes all the torque off the motor drivetrain.
Right.
And then you can shift as you want,
Yeah.
and it would work fine. But as he has it, it's a little bit of a, I would say, limited first drive and limited success because of the ability to shift. And so he's been working on that, and I think it's all okay now.
Oh, okay.
But did
Is
we
he going
introduce
with-
him and have him go and then wrapped up with some comments about it? I hope so. And that is Ed, John, and Gavin.
Yep.
Final thing is, criminy, we keep doing the same story every week, Mom. But it's the one near and dear to my heart, and that is the Tesla test bench.
Yeah.
Let's go take a look. Okay, wow, what a week.
Yeah. I'm still a little giddy from the hack team and the success of.
Well, let me
Getting there to
take a
spin
little
it.
wind out of your sails.
Uh-oh.
That was all for show.
Yeah.
And now we have to do some very hard work
This is true.
of actually figuring out what the hell this thing's doing.
This is true.
So I've had Bob working on the bench a little bit here. What have you accomplished?
Well, we've got the 220 wired up for the charger.
Yep.
And we've got the JLD 505 in here with the shunt connected to the pack. And we're just now getting ready to terminate the USB, and just the rest of the JLD 505. Yeah, we've got 20 or
This-
so other pins to go.
This is a rare luxury. If you've watched kind of some of our work with CAN, we usually have like a JLD 404 or a temperature probe or something. The concept is you have to make something measurable happen in the physical world and kind of record what happens and then go in and try to find some data that tracks that. And at that point, you think you have a connection, you can start working on the basic second grade arithmetic to get there.
Okay.
In this case, we have a new device. This is the prototype 1 we're using with a CHAdeMO. Paulo is redoing this, but what this does is give us quite accurate measurements of voltage,
Yes.
current,
Lab grade.
and temperature, and it puts it on CAN. Now we have one computer. We have two sets of wiring coming out of the inverter. We can attach all we want to that. But we have one computer that's sending data that comes from the car, that we've removed all the bytes that come from the inverter.
Yes.
And then we have CAN data that comes from the inverter. The system squirts a lot of CAN, about, what, 1,500
frames or so per second.
Frames per second.
Yeah.
And so associating that very precisely with what we would observe on a meter is non-trivial. Fortunately, this can take those measurements and put them out in the form of CAN frames. And in fact, I've got it set up to do a CAN frame message ID 404 and another one 505. And I'm probably going to have to go to a third 606.
Yep.
And that goes through the JEV queue to the EVIC normally that we're going to display our pack voltage and current and temperature. But also things from the JEV queue like RPM and speed and torque and so forth. In this case, what our plan is to take the CAN output of the JLD 505 and put it on the same bus with the frames from the car that we're simulating, the frames from the inverter, which are real, and the frames from the JLD 505. And so when the motor registers 362 volts, the JLD5 should as well. But we know what's in the JLD5 packets because we put it there.
Right, right.
And so if we can find
correlate that
a byte from, or a series of bytes from the inverter that goes up and down with voltage, then we can tell at any particular point what it's putting out, because there should be a 404 or 505 package involved. Recall that for our CHAdeMO, we also have 2 inputs and 2 outputs, digital and buffered. This is something we've used many times in the past. It's a little inductive pickup probe. And Bob's going to build me a little bracket here and a hole in the bench that'll hold this close to our rotating constant velocity joint segment here, and we'll put a couple of magnets on that
pickup
and wire that up as a pickup into input number 1 or number 2 on the JLD 505.
Okay.
And in this way we can count pulses. Again, I know what you're thinking, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, there's a 9.73 to 1 reduction.
Right.
And I don't even know how many pulses is a revolution. We'll put a couple of magnets, but there's sort of 3 dips in here. Maybe the dips will be enough to give us 3 pulses. It doesn't matter. Once we have the correlation, we'll take a handheld tack and measure this and get our conversion in software to an actual RPM of this.
Right.
And we know about the 9.73 reduction. So our RPM will be 9.73 times that.
Exactly.
And so we can calibrate very easily our RPM. And then we have to look in the stuff coming from the inverter as to what that is.
Right. Look for that corresponding data.
And I'm pretty good at that. Colin's pretty good at it. Chris Brand is kind of a recent acquisition, works for a unnamed bank, and he was here for the weekend and is quite enthusiastic, and he's like an Excel whiz. I mean, the guy is.
Yes, he is. He is.
He's a polymath.
He's phenomenally the mathematician.
Right.
You know?
And so we're going to let him do some analysis of it. this is the USB port for the JLD 505 on our panel. We've had a couple of questions. Rich Morris, when we were here, suggested that there was a serial number in the motor.
Yeah.
And I dismissed that as Tesla all, but it turns out he was probably correct.
Good one, Rich.
And I have some information from a guy who salvages these, that if you take a motor out of a Tesla wreck and you put it in another Tesla, that it'll drive once,
Yeah.
and then when you stop, it quits, which is kind of what we were seeing here. I think. I can't remember if we started up again by sending more data. We got
There's
several
a
things
few
going on here.
inconsistencies that we were trying to iron
But
out.
he says then you have to recycle the car by removing the 12 volts from the whole system, which for us is push this button and push it again.
Yeah.
And then you can go again once. And so I suspect that it does report its serial number to the car, and then the car doesn't send it something that's needed, which won't affect us at all. We've got no car.
Yeah.
We're going to send it whatever we want and whatever the car was supposed to send to make it work. But that's a little bit of a gotcha out there. The other question that's come up a lot, I've gotten about 10 emails from people wanting to know what it weighs. I asked Bob to weigh this morning.
Yes.
How did you weigh it?
Well, we picked it up with we have another drivetrain over here on a pallet and picked it up on the cherry picker and put it on one of your wheel scales, actually. And so, yeah, this unit weighs 298 pounds.
All right,
Yeah.
good. So without axles, the gearbox, the inverter, and the motor weighed 298 pounds.
Yes, sir.
We had Michael Elias in Switzerland who turned the motor the day after we did.
Yep.
In a very different fashion. He used a board, and it kind of broke open the story. I'd been kind of working with Michael for 6 months. He grabbed the really the Mercedes-Benz B model that was for sale in Germany that I had actually shown to Damien,
Yeah.
and he didn't buy it. And then this guy did for like 3,000 euros.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's sort of an orphan. It's out of a Mercedes-Benz B. It's really not the same deal. For example, he had a parking pole right here with an just an electrical actuator.
Yes. Yeah,
And
like a
were it not for the
stepper.
parking pole, he would have turned before we did.
Most likely. Yes. He was locked in park and
He was
didn't know
locked
it.
in park and didn't know it, and so he
Darn.
came in a day. But he was really doing this to try to bring attention to his board. His board is a controller board that ostensibly can be used with any power electronics and will auto-tune to any motor, which, if true, would be phenomenal. For example, and he did use the example,
demonstrate it.
a Chevy Volt inverter. I actually have one sitting here waiting on his board. He's kind of like Valery Metskov. He's a brilliant guy. He's got some great designs. I'm not having a lot of success getting him to actually like
Produce.
produce one
Yeah.
in a row.
Yeah. One in a row.
Right. And
But
so
it was pretty impressive what he did.
But
I'll
no,
definitely give him that.
I'm very enthused about it and have been quite predating this. I've been talking to him for 6 months. See, we have power electronics from the DMAC 845, which never did make it, but it's some beautiful power electronics sitting back there that if I had a controller board for it, I would have an inverter. And if I had a controller board that would learn motors, we have lots of motors, including Leaf motors, including Siemens motors, including UQM motors.
Yeah.
And now, of course, Tesla motors. He took it all apart, and I'm not too sure how you would package his board with this, so I really don't think it's a good mate with the Tesla system, but he was using that to try to get some attention for what he was doing. and what he's doing is kind of cool.
Yeah, he made it spin.
One way he could have gotten some attention was send me one, which he started
Yeah.
talking about 6 months ago, and then he never did quite do it. So he had some new boards made. Well, now that he's done this, he's got another revision to do, and it'll be smaller, and
Okay.
and better yet. But this is the story of these sort of things. They're kind of like our GLD 505. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
it, but we got a better one.
It's on the
coming.
way. It's on the way.
So that's how that's done. Now where was I going with all that? So he had a little different system. I have taken a look at this thing and have decided, as I alluded to last weekend, we need a touch screen to do the modes. This is the Andromeda Systems electric vehicle interface, the EVIC. And it's a pretty screen, and it's a touch screen, and I could do all that if I only could program it.
Yes. Which,
Turns out in the back, underneath this cover, is the board, which was actually designed by Brian Gallagher and Joe Coelho.
sounds
maybe.
right. Sounds right. Coelho.
And yeah, Coelho probably. And this is based on a 100 megahertz ARM core processor from Freescale that is quite a bit heftier than what we have. And what they really have in here that is underutilized in what they have on the market right now is a CAN bus and Ethernet and a wireless and input pins and output pins and all kinds of stuff. And so I have, Brian actually likes what we're doing with Tesla.
Good.
And it's kind of like the board. It would bring them a lot of attention if a Tesla drive unit control box, what would that be? A T-Duck?
Teed-up.
T-Duck, Tesla drive unit controller, was based on this. It would show off some of the more advanced features beyond what they're using it for as an EV display
It's a
now.
very highly capable, like you said, underutilized.
This uses
nice package.
Windows CE as an operating system, and they develop in Windows C#.
How long does it take to boot up?
Not any time at all.
Okay.
It comes right up. It's really a very automotive grade system. Brian used to, he did almost all of the instrumentation for the Aptera, which of course went bankrupt, but who hasn't in the EV space?
Who's next?
Yeah, who's next? And so that's what kind of teased me off about Tesla doing something like the serial number and the motor. Now, it's not going to affect us, but if you were repairing your Tesla, it would. And that's the same thing going on with the Daimler Smart ED. We have the battery, but we need to put in a thing.
Need to re-flash the firmware.
We're actually probably going to get a lawyer and start filing against these companies for this in-fast evasion that they do of the right to repair law. And we're probably going to have to get somebody to Massachusetts to go in with us on this and actually start getting the stuff to flash the Tesla and the Smart and so forth, just like their
And unfortunately, that's
dealers
probably
are.
what has to be done, right?
Unfortunately, that's what they keep announcing to the press that you can already do that,
Yeah.
so you don't need to pass any legislation. We're
All
gonna
our
have to
patents
make
belong
them
to
do
you.
that.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, we're going to base the controller on this EVIC display, and of course, it's not just another pretty skin. We're going to have to go in and program it for what we're doing. Design little buttons and so forth, and associate those modes with CAN. But along the way, we might as well develop the gauges and dials, and they already have some very nice stuff done for RPM and voltage and current and torque and regenerative braking and
Yep.
all that, just like they do with the EVIC.
They already have, yeah.
If we took this and our wire harness and this pedal, we would basically have a kit to control Tesla drive units. And so I've kind of pretty much decided at this point to go with the Freescale 100 megahertz and Brian's custom board. They actually make that board. The 800-pound gorilla in the space is actually NVIDIA. They have a Tegra 3 in their development system, I think is called Jetson, and that is what Tesla uses on their 17-inch display.
Okay. Yeah, I know them as a video chip.
They're kind of difficult to deal with on the automotive side. They'll sell you a Jetson, but you really want the Jetson Pro, which has like CAN. The other one doesn't.
Must have.
And yeah, it's kind of a must have. And you sort of have to qualify. I've applied, but I'm worn out by the process before they even respond.
Okay.
And
I got a guy I might be able to talk to at NVIDIA.
We've moved on.
Okay.
We're going to go with
Good,
the
because
Andromeda
my guy is probably
interfaces.
not that reliable.
But yeah, none of them are. And so we'll work with Brian now. We're going to be their first SDK. So
Yeah.
and that's the first time I've developed in Windows since 95 or 96. That's 20 years actually.
And it's C#, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
C#, kind of like a C++ for .NET. That makes a lot of the communication things much easier. So I don't have any fear of C#. I learned a program on the Zilog Z80 microprocessor using a book called Z80 Assembly Language by Rodney Zaks.
That's your roots, your programming roots?
In 1980. And before that, I thought all software people were queens and real men did radar, analog circuits,
Yeah.
operational amplifiers, integrators, differentiators.
Big stuff.
Big boy stuff. Stuff that you had to think about.
You could see, touch, and feel.
Ones and zeros I thought were for girls. But I learned otherwise about 1980. And but when you start at the machine level, languages are just a layer of abstraction with some sort of silly syntax somebody made up.
Yeah.
And you just have to learn their syntax, and it's not that there's only it's like basketball. There's 7 plays in basketball. Whatever you do comes up being a variation of one of those 7 plays.
Yeah.
There's about 7 things you can do in a computer. You can jump on 0 or jump on not 0.
Yeah.
And that's a result of a comparison. You can compare 2 values.
If then that.
And all while
this, then
loops do while, if then else, whatever. It's all, but it's a version of that. And so the rest of it's data storage and formats. And there's only a few ways to do that. And so the syntax will kill you. C++ being my favorite, but C++ is C equals, if C equals is an assignment. And if you want to compare 2 values, it's equals equals. Would you believe that I've never gotten that right one time?
Is that right?
Yeah. I always have to go back and put in the second equals, and it's like a really nasty bug every time you do it. It never
Doesn't
passes
compile
the
then.
comparison.
Yeah.
No, it compiles fine.
Oh, it
That's
does?
the problem.
Ah.
It compiles perfectly. And you don't know
Haunts
why.
you later then.
Why this works. That's the problem, is it's perfect syntax. You've just assigned it to be that, so of course it'll always be that if you're doing a comparison, because you didn't compare it, you just assigned it. And let's edit all that out, none of you want to hear that shit. In any event, I can
Wake
learn
up.
C#, it's another learning curve, it's 12 days. It'll all be fine. And then but then I have to learn their SDK, which could take a little longer. And I'm their first experiment, so be gentle.
Well, I'll do a little shoulder surfing on you and hopefully Pick up
Colin
some here and
Colin
there.
is that's his most comfortable language
C-sharp?
is C-sharp,
Ah.
and so he should be able to advise me on it quite a bit. He'll continue with Savvy Can and GFret.
I might have a guy for that too. Troy, are you listening?
So we'll get going on that, and that's where we're at on the bench. It continues. I hate to ride this horse to death week after week, but it's kind of what we're about around here right now. Bob is taking a look at the green thing, and
Yeah.
we want to get that going in the UQM. But frankly, I haven't even had a conversation with him about it. He's been back there poking around without any go-bys at all.
Sorting it out. There were some notes left behind, and referring to the JFQ manual as well. And I'm feet in the fire. And like I said when I got here,
but we want to fix this bench up again. We're going to do try to employ measurement equipment that can inject can into our stream, so we can get a time context going with our known measurements against the unknown values.
and watch those change with our knowns.
Right, and
Yeah.
so even the JLD 505 is not the end of the stroke. I guess we're going to have to set up a load, and that means a plate and a UQM off the end of this, something to lock that side of the differential down.
Yep.
And what else did we find? The reason I brought up Michael Elias is he did a good job of describing, but I've since found some further information. Our inlet here goes into a manifold, and the manifold feeds into the interior of the hollow rotor.
Yeah.
This has a cooled rotor
Something else.
that goes all the way to the inverter, and then it has a cooled inverter and a whole loop that comes out over here that is probably, I would say, the most advanced electric motor and inverter cooling system that I'm familiar with. There may be more advanced ones. I guess HPVS has had some success bathing the whole thing in mineral oil, but this is a glycol water. We are actually using that Everlast.
Waterless.
A waterless, but it goes through the middle of the rotor. It also goes through the stator at the same time. And then it goes to the inverter kind of from one end to the other and then back in a loop.
Yeah.
And then comes out over here. And so and it has some vent tubes and some tubes here to bypass all that. And so it's actually a very advanced cooling system.
It's quite impressive. That was one of the things I liked about Michael's video, was that he had this apart and you saw those channels, and it was
What else did I learn? You know, some of the mounting, I had pictured like putting this on backwards. Big no-no.
yeah.
There is a pump in the gearbox, and it only goes in forward. In reverse, there's supposed to be enough splash, but they limit the Tesla Model S to 15 miles an hour in reverse.
Okay, well that's fine.
It's something to keep in mind. You can't flip this over and use it backwards in a car, because then you would be in reverse on the gearbox going forward, and you would be limited to 15 miles an hour, and there's a big lubrication problem.
You'd soon find out.
If you do that. So 298 pounds, and I just about scored a P85D this week, the front and rear, and the guy I was getting it from was trying to line me up before he bid, and and we were all on a page, but then it went way high anyway. That P85.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that P85D is 127 grand new.
Sure.
So for a while, they're going to be at quite a premium in the salvage market.
Well.
I'm looking around. I'm seeing them down 25, 35. Whole Tesla Model S is on eBay now. Quite a few in the 60s, and one was $55,000.
These are functional, perfect cars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
not salvage.
Right.
And I'm seeing the salvage ones come down now, $25,000, $30,000, 35, that sort of thing. So this is all coming. I'm going to be kind of an asshole about it and sell the controller with drivetrains that we can test with it until we know that it works more widely.
Consistent and repeatable.
Because there's different, they can update the, oh, by the way, I also learned they can completely reflash the inverter with over CAN. So they could come along at any time and kind of put us out of business on this by encrypting it or doing something. You know, I'm kind of a little vague on why they would update 50,000 cars just to keep us from using junk ones in our shop and in a pickup truck. But
Let
you
the
never,
legacy
you,
live
you
on.
never
It's
know.
a, you know?
It could be done. The issue is that under right to repair, which we're moving toward even nationally, they're going to have to make that flashing software available. Tesla is doing well, maybe not as well as everyone believes, but doing well. But there's no assurance that a year and a half from now the news isn't that they're bankrupt and we're left stuck with cars. And
It's happened so many times before with other makers.
exactly. I mean, around here, guys, this is like where we live. It's like I've gotten to be the largest buyer of bankrupt car stuff because who can pay, anything for a large lot of stuff that you don't know how to work? Nobody will tell you.
Sure.
And it has no documentation.
Scrap to most.
And many of our viewers would love to have it, but they can't pay $50,000 or $100,000 to have something to play with that might work. If I go buy it and they can get it for $3,000, then it might be worth a tickle, but they can't pay $30,000 or $50,000 or something like that for it.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of become the default pile of junk for dirt cheap.
And I would say
we'll give you $50,000 for $5 million worth of equipment. No problem.
Sure.
Except it's not worth $5 million anymore because nobody knows how to work it, and you're bankrupt.
Like I said, it's scrap to most.
And they become boat anchors. If we don't get this worked out, this is a boat anchor.
Yeah. 298-pound boat anchor.
Which will anchor a pretty good sized boat.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. And, that's a shame for such really a gorgeous piece of technology with this cooling, an all copper rotor.
It's a beautiful
This
thing.
is a beautiful thing. And that was part of, the why I don't think Michael's solution is really a solution for this. I don't know how all that
it's quite elegant already.
I don't know how all that goes together, but you can't take this apart. You can't take the motor and put it on a transmission directly. It's sort of integral to the drive
It's a complete
box.
package. It's a beautiful thing.
The inverter doesn't even make any sense out of the pack. It doesn't have cables to the motor. That's the neat thing.
Yeah.
It's tied directly to the motor by essentially copper bars.
Bars, right.
They
Hefty ones.
actually split the bar and put in another kind of metal and use that as a shunt to sense current.
Yes. It was that different resistance. Right.
It's
Right. I
this
picked up on
different
that.
resistance metal as their shunt.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole thing is very low noise, very low emissivity, high efficiency. This is a pretty neat piece of equipment that I would love to build the car around. But it kind of, it's sort of a ball of yarn. If you start pulling on it, it just
does
comes
it end?
down. Yeah, where do you quit pulling the yarn, And so we have to develop a strategy for using it as is. And in my mind, what's coming together is a Tesla drive unit controller consisting of a touchscreen with a heavy-duty multi-controller in it and and a pedal and the harness where you don't have to hunt down all these connectors and stuff, and where you can simply mount. You'll have enough issues mounting this. And again, this has to be forward and the motor has to be in the back because you can't flip it over and do it in reverse. I mean, there's some ways to open up the gearbox, I guess, re-gear it.
Again, it's a
it gets
great
to be
package already.
non-trivial. And so that's your unit, and we're going to try to develop something that you can simply use to put it in a car without having to do everything we're doing here. In fact, it'll be simpler than any of them because
complete with harness. All you do is fabricate the mounting, hang it up in your frame, and attach your axles and have fun.
Yep. And you'll have to either use a pedal or one that puts out a very similar voltage, or you have to do some sort of translator so that it get the pedal. Colin measured. One of them is about it's a 5-volt reference, and at rest, one of them gives you 15% of that, which is 0.75 volts, is no pedal, and the other one is half of that, 0.375.
Right.
And then this one goes up to about 4 volts at full pedal.
Yep.
And the other one does about half of that, about 2 volts. And those are your two signals that are used for sanity check. So any pedal that will do that. There's no magic about this pedal other than two
signals.
outputs, and one of them is half the other one.
Okay.
And so that's 0 to 5%, and that's how most of them work. And
Prevents the runaway.
And the JLD 505 might be additive. It's not going to be part of the controller. This is what we're using as part of the decode. We'll use our GVRAT, the SavvyCAN. The JLD 505 will inject measurements into our data stream in real time.
Yeah.
And so we can compare that. So that's an update of what we're doing physically to the bench and conceptually as a means of getting what I think is the most gorgeous drivetrain I've ever seen in an electric car into the hands of our viewers so they can start doing
Just
57 Apache pickup trucks and stuff with
yes,
it.
please.
The 69 Camaros. And, that
Can you
sort of-
imagine?
anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so
Just all of those, like you called them heirlooms and
heirloom vehicles
just
and
the
classics, and I mean, a lot of people like Damien do modern BMW type stuff.
Yeah.
Once you get into the moderns, I think, what's the point? Why spend $60,000 converting one when you can buy a Leaf for $9,000?
Yeah. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles. But,
Right, but
Leafs are still ugly. I don't care what you say. There's,
I don't. They're not beautiful. Are they ugly?
Yes,
I
they are.
guess they are kind of ugly.
so are Priuses.
I want to defer to your sense of art here, Bob.
Bolts are okay.
Yeah, bolts will do look better, but oh my goodness, I just wish the Volt looked like the Volt they showed when they showed the concept Volt.
Yeah.
And what they finally delivered was nothing like it. So anyway, that is Tesla Test Bench Update, and stay with us. I'll try to get some other people to do some videos about electric vehicles. Working